Africa has to improve by its own methods. You see, every race has a reason to be born.
Yeah.
The white people have a reason to be born in Europe. So when they are born in Europe, they create their own cultures and their own way of life. They have their own God that they worship. In Africa, we had a reason to be born there. So we have a God. We have our gods and we have our mode of worship. You see. And when the African doesn't want to understand or participate in the reason why he was born, then he becomes a failure. See, so all the African leaders look up to Europe for progress. Okay, you cannot know a white man's things better than the white man. So therefore you cannot intend to progress at the same level with the white man. You see, Africa has not been able to contribute its own knowledge to this universe. But we have knowledge in Africa.
I was born on a one-night stand in Kansas, a little town called Pickaway. My dad was a comedian and great eccentric dancer and tricks. He wasn't exactly an acrobat, but darn near. And my mother played musical instruments and danced with him. And of course, when I came into the act, then he got the idea of trying to show the audience how to bring up children correctly. And every time I did something he didn't like, he'd either take me with the back of the neck and throw me through a piece of scenery or kick me clean off the stage through chairs, tables, or anything that would be in the way. I grew up getting knocked around.
There's a story that a society for the prevention of cruelty to children complained about their parents.
We ran into that trouble every place when I joined the act. And they took me into New York when I was around 5 years old. Number one is that at that time, the Gary Society law in New York, which hadn't been very important yet, it was more to buck child labor than anything else in factories. But the law there says that no child under the age of 7 can even walk on the stage. And then, we got around that because they lied about my age. They said I was 7 when I was just 5.
That's when you started to perform at the age of 5.
No, I had been getting a salary since I was 4 years old. And the next thing was that the law said that no child under the age of 16 can walk wire, juggle, do acrobatics, roller skate, play musical instruments, there's an awful list of things. But none of them said that you couldn't kick him in the face. And for that technicality, we were permitted to work. But we did get stopped often.
What was your impression of Hollywood when you came out here for the first time to work?
It was marvelous. Well, we actually worked harder. We didn't mind it.
All hours of the day.
Oh, you never knew. We loved to decide to work all night, and we never had schedules, not outfits like ours. Number one, I owned my own studio. I owned all the equipment. The studio studio owned it all. So if we said, let's set up the camera, it didn't cost us a cent because the cameraman's under salary for the year. The cameras we owned, we're not paying rental on anything. And when I finally got into feature-length pictures in 22, all they wanted from me was 2 pictures a year. And that wasn't taking life easy. We'd have been really pressed if we'd had tried to turn out a 3rd picture a year. 2 was ideal, to give you a spring and a fall release.
Tell me, how did the business of the frozen face come about? The deadpan?
That came from the stage. As I grew up, I was the type of comedian, the minute I laughed at what I did, the audience didn't. So I just automatically learned to take everything serious. And by the time I was something like 10 or 11 years old, working with a sober face was mechanical with me. Never even thought about it. So when I went into pictures, I was 21, and I got the reputation immediately called frozen face, blank pan, and things like that. We went in the projecting room and ran our first 2 pictures to see if I'd smiled.
You made sure that you didn't?
Well, I hadn't paid any attention to it. We found out I hadn't. Just a natural way of working.
Would you hope for anything more out of your career than what you've had?
No, I had a very interesting career. In other words, I have no complaints.